The number one reason insurance denies roof claims is not what you think. Insurance companies aren't denying your claim because you don't have damage. They're denying it because they don't have documentation. This is why we use drones, AI technology, satellite imagery, and just good old roofing experience to document everything that might be wrong with your roof. You as a homeowner need a roofer with documentation standards. Call Absolute Restoration. Let us come and inspect, document, and present.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Welcome into Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm meteorologist Gabe, and we're keeping those calm and mild conditions in the forecast overnight and into the start of your weekend. Tracking those headlines here in the Room to Room Weather Center, you can see that the first one, potential for strong storms, that's what stands out in your weekend forecast. That's primarily going to be at the end of the weekend, though, so we do have a pretty good pattern until then. And the golden question with the forecast we're feeling tonight is how long does that heat last? We know it carries over into Saturday, but how long beyond that? And will it carry over into 2026? Well, at least we know one thing, new year, new forecast, and that does come with temperatures, so it will not last forever, the heat ending here in this 7-day. The first 12, of course, showing those mild conditions overnight. So like I said, warm conditions not going anywhere. 67 degrees by 7, gradually cooling off into the low 60s by tomorrow morning, but low 60s, definitely abnormal for this time of year. But a big part of that is because of how much moisture is in the forecast. With that moisture, that of course means that it's a blanket across the sky and doesn't allow us to cool off much beyond where that point stands. Of course, and we've got to look outside right now. Amory 66 degrees. Those winds still relatively calm. Not an impossibility that we do get some patchy fog once again, especially in Monroe County. But where those breezes are a little bit more apparent, well, that'll clear out a bit of that moisture on the ground and allow for some clearer conditions overnight. Seeing that not too far away, Caledonia 70 degrees, dew point 62, but that wind coming out of the south, 5 miles an hour, that's gradually clearing that moisture out, at least from the ground, and helping prevent some of those foggy starts to our Saturday. 68 degrees Kosciuszko, 63 degree dew points, and still those winds about 3 miles an hour out of the south. So some areas more than others, but nonetheless, with this abnormal and unstable environment, it is setting the scene for Sunday's severe weather risk. And we'll look at timing coming up later on in the 6 o'clock broadcast, but this is going to be that level 1 threat stretching across Highway 6 and all the way up north. And we're talking well up north, all the way up into Indianapolis, Springfield, Illinois, Akron, Ohio. So there's a lot of folks that are in that level 1 threat. Not an impossibility that we do get a level 2, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that we could see this also rescinded just a bit and starting to decline in coverage. But it really depends on where that instability is and where that shear axis is. Where those two pieces come together, that's where we're seeing the potential for some strong storms. Of course, if we look at temperatures across the region right now, it's, of course, really apparent why we are in this severe weather threat because temperatures are just so abnormal. All of that heat lifting well north of Tupelo into Bowling Green, Springfield, Wichita, and even for parts there of mid-Indiana and same thing mid-Illinois as it continues to work its way north. But dew points still tell the big story. And earlier this afternoon, we were sitting in the upper 60s in North Mississippi. Upper 60s, that's enough for severe weather to take place. So if that atmosphere remains in place by Sunday night, then we're looking at a primed environment for at least some of those strong storms to build up and potentially produce a severe storm as well. So 62 degrees Bowling Green, all of that moisture expanding well into Illinois and Indiana. So that's what we're going to be paying attention to in that extended pattern. But right now, the big weather maker continues to be this low pressure center up around Pittsburgh. That's giving a lot of winter weather for folks up in the Northeast. Down here in the South, of course, it is a very calm and dry forecast once again. We do expect that to continue to remain in place into those overnight hours. Not an impossibility that we do get a sprinkle there in northwest Alabama, but I think the vast majority of our moisture up there towards West Virginia and around Pennsylvania. So we do stay dry, we stay calm, a little bit breezy out of the southwest. So I think that clears out the good bit of our fog chances. So tomorrow morning, our Saturday morning shaping up to be a good one that you definitely need to get out and about for to soak in these great conditions, especially with severe weather looming in that extended forecast and cold temperatures beyond that point. So looking at that forecast heading into the rest of our Saturday when folks are more than likely waking up and getting around, it is going to be that cloud cover building in more and more. So mostly cloudy conditions. Unfortunately, after that mostly clear start, those really push into the forecast beyond that point. Not an impossibility to sprinkle there in northwest Alabama, but you see the big story, and that's the temperatures getting into the mid-70s by the afternoon. Once again, we'll continue to look at that temperature forecast coming up here in the next 60. We're also going to take a look at that New Year's forecast and, of course, football. Not too far away either as the Ole Miss Rebels and the Alabama Crimson Tide take on their opponents. We'll take a look at those matchups, the latest matchups, coming up from the Room to Room Weather Center, live on Mississippi Live Weather at 6 in the next 60.
Give the gift of a delicious burger from Bulldog Burger, a soup and sandwich from Sweet Pepper's Deli, appetizers and cocktails from The Grill, or even a wood-fired steak from Harvey's. Choice is the perfect gift. An all-in-one gift card from Eat With Us.
I felt accomplished after I got my diploma. Made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
This portion of Mississippi Live Weather is presented by Little's Jewelers.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's meteorologist Gabe Maynor.
Well, a beautiful sky out in Cleveland tonight where a little bit of that clearing actually did take place. Unfortunately, reporting station is down, but if it were up, it would show a little bit of those cooler temperatures out there. Cooler, of course, a relative term. It is still a very mild environment, but at least a drop back from where we sit here in Lee County, Monroe County, and Itawamba County. And that extends all the way down the line, but that cloud cover gradually building into those overnight hours. So folks in Greenville, unfortunately, reporting station is down there as well. But that cloud cover will be the story into tomorrow morning. And of course, keeping that blanket in the sky, not allowing those temperatures to drop too much. Speaking of Lee County, 66 degrees right now there in Saltillo, 63-degree dew points, and still with that southwesterly wind building into the area, I think that'll prevent us from getting any of that patchy fog for our Saturday morning commute. But heading into the end of the week, of course, we did get that latest drought monitor, and that level 3 drought still extending across parts of Bruce, Grenada, Water Valley, and Oxford, even for folks there in Batesville. Now, of course, beyond that point, level 1 and level 2 drought still in effect. So if your ponds, if you're going fishing and those ponds are a little bit low, this is exactly why. Or if those crops just not exactly looking how you want them to, yeah, drought is to blame on that one. And if we look at that rainfall deficit, you can definitely see some areas that stand out more than others, and that one being where that level 3 drought currently stands. That's going to be right around the Grenada to Water Valley area. That's going to be where we have that 2+ inch rainfall deficit. The rest of us, there's a whole bunch of red. That red on our legend is 1 to 2 inch deficit over the last 30 days. So yes, this is exactly why that drought's in place, and why that drought has worsened for some parts, just because there hasn't been any rainfall in that forecast over the past 30 days. Our Mississippi Live Weather Radar, of course, showcasing those dry conditions once again heading into our Friday night, but that is a fortunate thing for any of those plans that are in place for tonight, of course, with dinner, 8 p.m. by 65 degrees, 64 by 9, and same thing by about 10 o'clock. And seeing those temperatures, I'm going to say temperatures, what's the word I'm looking for, decrease overnight. But even that's a little bit of a stretch due to how much moisture is in the air. So if we expand things out, of course, you're getting a look there at our frontal boundary pushing into the area, but no effects are going to be felt with that front. The big thing that this front's going to do is drive out a good bit of that moisture. So that's why we say rain chances, your best bet going to be northwest Alabama, and that's that 10% chance that is in play. The rest of us here in North Mississippi, I have us staying on the drier side, especially once that moisture carries off towards the east. So that continues in place for your Saturday morning, and especially during that Saturday morning commute. If you're heading home from family or heading to family for New Year's Eve and stuff like that, well, it's going to be shaping up to be a good travel day for your Saturday. But warm at that, mild temperatures to get out on your Saturday morning, 59 degrees Red Bay, Hamilton, Alabama, 60 degrees Water Valley, Oxford, Holly Springs, and 63 Greenwood, Belzona, and Cleveland. So yeah, this is as mild as you're going to get for this time of year for sure. And that heat continues to build heading into the rest of our Saturday as that moisture carries on out, and we're left with those mostly cloudy conditions overhead by mid-morning. So that's that cloud cover that's building in throughout the day. There will be some occasional breaks throughout the day, but not going to see those sunny skies in place, unfortunately. Now, I know you're seeing a lot of greens show up. No, those greens are not going to be attached to any rainfall. We do believe these will be elevated showers or elevated moisture that will primarily be in the form of cloud cover. So fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, it's not going to be a big part in our forecast in North Mississippi. That all being driven away. But the reason why that moisture is key to our forecast is because it's destabilizing the atmosphere and, of course, keeping that moisture around heading into our Saturday night and Sunday morning and, of course, priming that environment for that severe weather threat late into your Sunday. Now, high temperatures showing that there's still a significant heating element on your Saturday afternoon with 76 Grenada, Water Valley, 73 Louisville, 75 Macon, and 76 Tupelo and Amory. Now, if we carry out this forecast into the rest of our Saturday night and Sunday morning, you can see that it is going to be calm for at least the nighttime portion of our Saturday night. As we keep that forecast going into those overnight hours and into your Sunday morning, you do see that this front is starting to move closer and closer into the area. Now, this front is going to be what's attached to that severe weather threat. That gradually expanding a little bit more east, and you do get some of this prefrontal development, these light showers that are allowing for that environment to, again, destabilize, putting that moisture in the air, and of course making way for that moisture to be there when that lifting mechanism pushes in, with that being the cold front. So that's going to be noontime, still with that moisture right overhead, the potential of a few light showers, not an impossibility. But as this moves further into our area, and we're going to drag this in a little bit closer, you can see that this lifting mechanism is going to be where we see the strongest development of those showers and storms. Really going to be up north is where I expect the highest output of severe weather to be. But as that line continues a little bit more southwest, that tail continues to build, it is going to reach into portions of North Mississippi during those late night hours of our Sunday. You can see that really getting enhanced right overhead by 9 p.m. And if we expand it in just a bit, you can see some of those reds popping up. So while the possibility of a tornado is not impossible, it's just not really expected with this setup. The big thing that I would expect is a strong gradient wind, and gradient wind being that pressure, those different pressure layers that are basically really tight together. Whenever they're really tight together, we get those strong outputs of wind, and that's going to be right along this leading edge. And how we know it's going to be a strong gradient wind, I'll show you temperatures here in just a moment, but that'll tell you everything you need to know whenever it comes to this forecast. Those chances do wrap up by the time we get into those early AM hours on our Monday, so chances are there Monday morning. But really that'll clear up by the time we get going with the rest of our Monday, being that we are on break, so folks sleeping in. So if you're getting out a little bit later in the day, you'll be seeing a sunny sky. So don't let those chances fool you, but we'll get into that in just a moment. High temperatures on your Sunday, still keeping that warm weather around, and again, that unstable atmosphere. 77 Amory, Vernon, Alabama, Columbus, Mississippi, as well as Bruce. But if we track out a little bit towards the west, 75 Cleveland, all the way up the river towards Tunica, matching that same margin. But I was talking to you guys about football, and our SEC football forecast does take us all the way to California. There in Pasadena as Alabama takes on Indiana at 3 o'clock on Thursday, your New Year's Day. In that first play, unfortunately, going to be dealing with those scattered showers. California dealing with a ton of rainfall the past few days, and that carries over into the forecast next week. So take that rain gear for any of our Crimson Tide fans traveling far and wide to reach over there towards Alabama. Going to be a fun one out there for sure. But as we look at the SEC football forecast for one a little bit closer to home, I had to include this picture for the Ole Miss Rebels because they were actually Sugar Bowl champions back in 2016. So hoping to repeat that nearly 10 years later against the Georgia Bulldogs there in New Orleans. Forecast shaping up nicely. It is a dome though, so it's not really going to impact the forecast on the field, but mid-50s, nothing to complain about with those clear skies for any folks that are traveling across the South. So your 7-day forecast, Saturday, of course, staying on the drier side, but cloud cover sticking around all day long. 62 degrees, 7 a.m., climbing to 76 degrees by the afternoon. And if we carry that forecast out, there's those percentages that I was talking about. 20% being that it is late into your Sunday night, and then 30% depending on how far that reaches into your Monday morning. Now, it could be a little bit more, but I do have this front clearing out by the time the vast majority of us wake up and get around for the start of our New Year's week. But beyond that, we're talking about that gradient wind, and look at this drop-off we're seeing. 76 degrees Sunday, falling off to 38 degrees by Monday. That is a 38-degree difference, basically splitting our high-temperature Sunday in half to get our Monday started. And then beyond that, we only climb into the mid-40s. So that significant cool down, bringing some strong gradient winds as a result. And of course, we'll see breezy conditions beyond that point. So heading into your New Year's Day, 2026, bringing cold temperatures. We'll take a look at that in a little bit more detail coming up here in just a moment. But yeah, quite a flip of the script and quite a flip of the forecast. Keep it here at Mississippi Live Weather for the very latest as we look at the next year ahead.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
I know you're going through a lot. I wonder if you know that we can get help. Let's see how far we can go. Love, your mind.
1 in 10 kids vape. Each vape pod can contain the same amount of nicotine as a pack of cigarettes.
The health class film guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Talk to your child about vaping today.
Well, welcome back into the Room to Room Weather Center. Continue to track the potential for inclement weather by your Sunday, but we're also tracking that New Year's forecast and shaping up to be a good one. Of course, happy early New Year to all of our North Mississippi residents. Going to be a fun time heading into next week. New Year's Eve shaping up to be a phenomenal forecast with 50-degree high temperature and plenty of sunshine. 48 degrees New Year's Day, still with those mostly sunny skies. But of course, we got to X out of this and talk about, of course, the temperatures, also the severe weather potential, and just a lot whenever it comes to the next several days. So we're going to walk through Futurecast, and I did put temperatures on there to show you how unstable of an environment that we're talking about whenever the severe weather threat rolls in. And coming up at 10, we're going to put the dew points on there and assess this in the same way, because I do think this is the big thing to pay attention to as we head into our weekend. So Saturday morning, as you can see, waking up to the low 60s, and by the afternoon, we're climbing once again into the mid to upper 70s. So potential for record-setting heat is in the forecast once again. But let's drag this out into our Sunday morning, and you may notice that it still is a dry pattern, but we are watching for that warm air to stick around. The unstable air. That's going to be low 60s for the start of your Sunday once again. And getting into our afternoon, there you're starting to see the line form a little bit better by 5 p.m. on your Sunday. That's going to be out there towards Arkansas, and as you can see, building up in that southwest and northeast direction, and some of this prefrontal moisture developing, and that's going to allow for that unstable environment to stay unstable. We don't really expect anything to come from those prefrontal cells, but really coming from the line back behind it. So let's take this into those overnight hours. And you can see how those colors get a bit darker and maybe incorporate some of those yellows on that leading edge. Now, this is our American model, our American long track model, so it is going to underdo things a bit. But coming up at 10 o'clock, we'll get the latest on that HRRR, which is our high definition model. That's why we'll assess it in a little bit more detail. I think we could see a few more things as this front starts to develop. But there you're getting a look by midnight on your Sunday night, Monday morning, that line right overhead and continuing to move through the area into those overnight hours. So I know it is break, but some folks need to work heading into your New Year's week. So if we are doing so, weather call, best way to do so to stay prepared as these chances roll on through, and those chances continue to increase, working their way into Huntsville and off there into Birmingham, Chattanooga, and Knoxville before, of course, clearing out of our area in its entirety and then leaving us with a cold, cold forecast. So there you're getting a look Monday morning, temperatures in the mid 30s. I mean, let's go back and watch this line. We're going to go to bed to temperatures in the low 70s, upper 60s, and we will be waking up to temperatures in the mid to upper 30s. Yeah, a completely different environment for sure, and that will linger in the forecast into your Monday as we only top out around the mid 40s, and then we'll fall off back once again into the low 30s. So I'm going to drag it out through one of our future temperature graphics to showcase how much cold we're talking about and drag this all the way through on New Year's Day. So Monday night, of course, going to be cold. Tuesday morning, we're talking 20s back in the forecast, mid to upper 20s, and those gradually warming up throughout the day, but only topping out around the low to mid 40s once again. So another cold day all the way around. And as we push that more into our Wednesday morning, back into the 20s before we climb back into the mid to upper 40s by our Wednesday afternoon. And then we carry that over into your New Year's Eve. And as we're saying, Happy New Year, temperature is going to be hovering right around that freezing mark, a little bit above it. I think that our American model is a bit overdoing it, but still a good track on this on how much cold we're going to be seeing. And as we get into our Monday or Thursday morning, mid 30s. And then as we get into the afternoon, of course, climbing back up. But that cold is going to stick around. Take a look by the time we're getting towards Friday morning. Teens being seen in Huntsville, Chattanooga, and Knoxville. Low 20s in Tupelo, mid 20s in Starkville. So, folks, it's getting cold, and it's getting cold fast, and it's getting cold with some vengeance because it's heard that North Mississippi has just been a bit too warm. So be ready for that, and of course, stay prepared. And of course, best way to do so is with the Mississippi Live Weather app. Your forecast tonight stays mild and dry, so don't need to worry about severe weather, and you don't need to worry about any of those cold temperatures moving in. We're staying in the mid to low 60s all night long. Definitely not a forecast to complain about here in North Mississippi. I do hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas. And of course, we will be back coming up at 10 o'clock tonight. You can stay updated using that Mississippi Live Weather app. Go ahead and download the free app today. And we can't wait to see you guys coming up at 10 o'clock tonight. And don't forget our weekend broadcast with meteorologist Caleb Edelblut at 6 and 10 on your Saturday and Sunday. We'll see you guys then. But of course, don't forget about the 10 o'clock broadcast tonight. We'll see you there right at 10.
Growing up, Gabe was naturally curious. When he began to discover weather, Gabe just didn't want to know what was happening, but he wanted to know why it was happening. Gabe became fascinated with tornadoes, and it impacted his life. He wanted to pursue a career in meteorology. Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.